I'm Andrew.
And I'm Angus. We're from Cracker Wines.
Yes, and today we are doing Cab Shiraz.
We are indeed, but not just any Cab Shiraz. We're doing the Yalumba family of Cab Shiraz.
That's
from
right. Youngest to oldest.
entry to super premium.
Yes, from baby to grandpa, if you like.
So, Cab Shiraz,
Great
what does it
Australian
mean
red.
to you?
Well, it's a great Australian red.
It
You
is
know,
the great Australian red.
it's all about, it's the one, amongst other things, it's one of the only blends that we can be like, hey, this is ours, it gets stuffed.
No one else does it anymore, but that's not true.
No.
Historically.
No, it's not Angus.
You know, the Bordelais, Lafitte Hermitage, they used to do it in the 1790s, early 1800s. Bordelais weren't very happy with the weight in their wines, so they got a bit of Shiraz to give it oomph. As opposed to here in Australia, where we kind of add a bit of Cabernet to give our Shiraz a bit of oomph.
That's exactly right. And I think that as far as, you know, in the scheme of things, that the Barossa is probably one of the better places to be doing Cabernet Shiraz.
If not the only place. Actually, Coonawarra
Coonawarra
does do it, and
Yeah, you do it in
there's
the Vale
some-
too.
there's some top Penfolds Cab Shiraz coming out at plus $200, but that's another story.
Yeah, exactly.
We're on the Hill Smith story today. So, interesting enough, Grange, a lot of people don't know, Grange often has a bit of Cabernet in it.
And it does. Like a lot of good blends, they realise that you want that Cabernet there, Angus, because it gives some structure. It gives
Yeah.
some structure. It gives a little bit more tannins. You know, you'd be like, hey, you know, Shiraz is that really lovable, fun-loving guy,
That's
but
right.
you occasionally you want him to be a bit serious.
Especially from bad vintages or hot vintages like Cabernet, just because it's got these thick as just very thick skins. And what it is about those skins, they can survive the heat, they can survive the rain better. So if you've got a great vintage, Shiraz can do fantastically, but if your vintage is a bit off here or there...
Like
Cabernet,
2011.
2011, 2008, you know, Cabernet gives some oomph, and in these
Exactly.
wines, we've got more oomph than we know what to do with.
So starting at the end here, we've got the Scribbler 2009. So all these are all Barossa.
wines, or newish wine,
Newish,
like
I think second release. Yeah, I think it's the second release. Yeah, and so we're starting here for we're looking under $20, just under $16.
yeah.
Yeah, $20 mark.
So these are Cabernet Shiraz too. They're not Shiraz Cabernet. They're every single one Cabernet Shiraz.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
60 Cabernet, 40 Shiraz, which is clearly the way Yalumba thinks should be done. And like I think this wine you'll have seen. A lot of you won't have seen this three before because
Yeah,
they are
exactly.
pretty specky kind of wines.
Exactly. And so we're talking, to start off here with the 2009, so from a warmer vintage, this probably looks the most juicy out of all of these. It probably looks, I think, just a little bit too juicy at the moment. It's going to settle down a little bit more, Angus, but maybe it's a little bit too ripe at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's definitely an introduction to Cabernet Shiraz, but it's got some nice sweet fruit there, nice sweet Cabernet, Cassis, generous Barossa style, nice length. Look, it's not going to keep for 20 years in the shed, there's no doubt about that, but for now, pretty good, open, friendly, have a glass or two.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's a barbecue wine. There's no question about it. But yeah, we're sort of...
But not a
No,
mint
we don't be
barbecue.
derogatory about that. No,
Medium
no,
barbecue.
no. I think it is. It's still got some class behind it. Put it that way.
It's got your Woolworths sausages with a bit of spring onion, a bit of ginger in it. It's not your Aldi sausage kind of barbecue.
No, there's no cardboard and sawdust in there today.
Uh-oh, calling the lawyers.
So the next one we've got here is the FDR 1A, Angus.
This is actually a very special wine. I mean, I don't know who's doing the naming. Fine Dry Red 1A is a mouthful, to say the least. But I believe this is only about the third or fourth vintage of this. First one was 70s. 74 first vintage, so 74, then they revitalised about 30 years later. I'm actually a really unashamed fan of this style. It's a reserved style, it's not as ripe a style, it's got it tastes like Australia, it tastes like personality,
Yeah.
but without being this massive, generous kind of
Exactly.
punch in the facey kind of wine.
And on that, actually, all these wines all sit about 13.5%,
Yeah.
which I've got to say that I'm really glad to see that you can make a ripe Australian red from the Barossa that doesn't need to be 14.5%.
We're going to be able to finish this video still talking, which is a win for everyone.
So, look, I'm really happy to see the sort of moderation being the answer, as well as having some great tannins here, Angus. You know, really excited to see that in this wine that you're like, hey, this got some balls. Simple as that. You know, it sounds quite crude, but this has actually got, you know, it's got tannins, it's got structure, it's got weight.
This is a wine I'd love to chuck a case in the shed.
Exactly.
Like it's beautiful drinking now, but it just has depth to it, it has flavour to it. If you like Australian red wines and you've never had given Cabernet Shiraz a go, but you're into the good stuff, look, seriously, get yourself a case of this because it's got length, it's got personality, perhaps not as oaky as these guys, which is possibly an advantage. It's from 08, tough year, but that Cabernet just keeps it going.
Yeah, it
keeps
does. Yeah.
I mean, it's getting a bit cedary, like you're already seeing a slight bit of development on it, but it's just a lovely It's got personality.
It has got it. Look, and you know what? From the outset, it screams, "Hello, I'm an Australian red," without sort of falling into that overt sweetness and innovation. It's still a savoury red.
It's a swallower, for sure, too.
Look, it's definitely a swallower. And so next along the lines, we've probably got one of the... Whoop, I just pulled into that one. Probably the most famous, if anything...
Faux pas.
A faux pas, right
Faux
there.
pas.
The most famous of these super premium Barossa Reds, as far as your lumber goes. Probably the most renowned of the Cabernet Shiraz. This one's been around for the longest.
There's a lot of signature in people's sheds around the country.
So to fill it in, the whole idea behind the signature is each year they honour someone from the Yalumba Hill Smith sort of extended family, if you like, and they sort of give it to someone and go, hey, you could sign it this year. So hopefully one day they'll give it to me and they'll go, Andrew, can you sign one? And I'll be like, okay, look, that's
Mate, you can sign this one if you want.
I can sign this one. It'll become a collector's piece.
This is from Kevin Renshaw.
Okay, I'm not
Grew
sure
up
what
in
it
New
is for me.
Zealand.
Now, what makes this special, I suppose, is that you're talking about very much a big Barossa red. There's no question about that. But
There's perfume, though.
oh yeah,
There's some beautiful lifted Cabernet Cassis action going on.
this is a 2006 and it's still looking very, very young.
Look at the colour too. I mean, that's probably the blackest of all the wines.
Yeah, it is
Some
actually.
real kind of depth.
Very much so. And I think that this sort of wine, you just know that if you're going to put this away, Angus, it's going to be 15 to 20 year wine.
Yeah.
I would say...
Going to put Kevin away.
We'll put Kevin away. And I would say, yeah, look, I'd be saying 2006, 2026 is probably still young.
Yeah, it's still very useful.
Yeah, very much so. Just really smart, you know?
Tell you what I love about Cabernet. It tightens up Shiraz.
Yeah.
Like Shiraz can be big and bold and bang in your face. And that bit more acidity, those tannins, they just firm it up and give it a bit more oomph, but not just sweet fruit oomph, a bit more kind of depth and masculinity.
And again, a very savoury one. Really quite savoury.
Beautiful length. Fair bit of oak on. I mean, you'll see on both these wines, the oak starts to play a bigger role, but the reason is because they want these wines to go like the classics
Yeah,
for
exactly.
20 years.
Well, and that's one of the other things that you don't know about Yalumba is they actually have their own coopers, which is very unique in Australian terms because it means that they go, we want the best oak, and we're going to do it. Let's make our own barrels.
Yeah. So they buy them in straight. The trees come over from France.
Cut them up themselves, all that sort of stuff. And as a result, you find that the oak on this, while we're talking there's probably a lot of it, but it's a very clever oak regime. And although they can be a little bit oaky in their youth, you just know that that's the sort of quality oak that is never going to be overt. It's never going to be too out there.
I
It's just
find that
high
a bit resiny at the moment, just slightly kind of.
It's probably too young
There's a
still.
slight tang to that oak, but again, it's not made for today.
No,
it's
no,
made
definitely
for
not.
2016, 2020, 2026.
Yeah, and we're both sort of saying that we find this sort of thing quite close still. I mean, the 06 wines are often quite moderate in their style, and even now, I mean, something like that is still cooking quite backwards. So, I mean, we're talking 5 years, and that's not even enough. You want to drink that in 5 years' time.
That's right.
And which brings us up to, nicely up to the next wine.
The Reserve.
The Reserve.
Not just any reserve, but the Reserve.
So the way they work this is the best barrels from Signature go in to make the Reserve. So they go, hey, that's one great looking barrel. Look, it's looking pretty sexy. Where's that going to go? Straight off to make a Reserve.
500 dozen only.
That's right. And they only do it in the years when they're like, look, this is great.
That's true.
So,
But interestingly, they don't always choose great years. Like traditional, historic great years.
Yep.
I remember the 01 was a cracker. Like it really was. Like 01, difficult kind of vintage. Well, not difficult, but not perfect vintage. And the 01 Reserve, I just remember being an absolute
Yep.
stinkingly hot wine. And then you give them a 4 when the conditions are so much more benign and a bit cooler, but friendly. I mean, this is proper wine.
This is a serious one. Now, if you can't actually see on the camera there, but on the side of the bottle here, we have what I would describe as a shitload of sediments. What we're saying is that this
You
is...
have to give this an R rating.
this is built for the long haul.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to buy some, and I've got some kids who were born in 2004, and I want to see them, make sure this goes to their 21st birthday. This is the wine for it.
Yeah.
Those tannins, that structure, it is all seriously winey.
It's kind of wine you could just stick your nose in for hours. It really is.
Very Australian, very Barossa, but also
Beautiful.
really good.
Pretty.
Very smart. Just a real classic Australian red. And that's ultimately what I think they're going for here. The classic Australian red wine style. You know, it's not going to be too sweet, but just so much character and flavour. And
13.5% alcohol.
again,
And feel those tannins like they are proper old world tannins. Proper Bordeaux, Nebbiolo, Sangiovese.
that's right.
Grainy, full, hearty, but they tell you they're there, and they tell you the wine's going to be there for a long time.
This is the sort of wine that me and Angus were sort of like, if you're going to be having a wine at Christmas time, if you want to be somebody that you're going to be like, hey, look, the in-laws are coming for a change, what am I going to do?
I'm going to cork this and put it in the fridge for Christmas. I reckon it's going to still be going. Mum, it's coming.
But that's it. This is all about a wine where you're like, this is what Australian red can be. This is what the sort of the style that you really want the ultimate in people to know what Australian red wants to be.
I agree. This is the kind of wine that you can put on any table, anywhere, and this is a proper wine that will go the distance, and people who know wine will go on the money, and the length is just vibrant and
very much so. So much length. It just keeps going and going. There's just so much it keeps giving for you.
You have to get on my phone and ask for some more. It's lovely.
Well, on that note, I think that
Yalumba.
I'm going to get rid of the rest of it now.
Cabernet Shiraz. Thank you very much.